Time order organization, organizing narrative writing. In this lesson, you will learn how to organize your ideas in narrative writing using subordinating conjunctions of time and transition words. To help you understand, let me ask you a question. If you're looking for a book, in which library will you find it more easily? To me, this library looks more organized. Think about your readers when you write. Organize your writing to make it easier to read. There are different ways we can organize our ideas when we write. We could organize our ideas by showing a cause and an effect, or presenting a problem and providing a solution, by comparing and contrasting two things, by describing what something looks like in space, or by ordering our ideas in time. When we write narrative pieces, we use time ordering to show that one thing happened before another thing. When we order our ideas in time, we can use subordinating conjunctions of time and time and narrative transition words. Let's remember what subordinating conjunctions of time are. Here are some useful subordinating conjunctions of time: before, after, when, as soon as, by the time, and while. When we use subordinating conjunctions of time, we always use two clauses in our sentence. For example, before I went to sleep, I brushed my teeth. There are two clauses here. Remember, a clause is a sentence. It has a subject and a verb. In this case, we have a dependent clause that cannot be alone and an independent clause that can be alone. In the first clause, the subject is I, the verb is went to sleep. And in the second clause, the subject is I, and the verb is brushed. So to check if you are using a subordinating conjunction correctly, make sure you have written a sentence that has two clauses. That means you should see two subjects and two verbs. Notice also there's a comma after the dependent clause. It is wrong to put a period here. If you write a sentence like this that says, before I went to bed, you're writing what we call a fragment sentence. A fragment sentence is not a complete sentence. Remember, it's also possible to switch the order of the clauses. Remember that if the dependent clause is first, that means the subordinating conjunction is at the beginning of the sentence. We need a comma after the first subject and verb, after the first clause. But if the subordinating conjunction is in the middle, we do not need a comma. And you should not put one. It's not correct. Another way we can show time relationships in writing is by using transition words. Here are some useful transition words to show time. We use them differently than subordinating conjunctions. Let's take a look at an example. My morning routine is very predictable. First, I eat breakfast, then I take a shower. After that, I drink 2 cups of strong coffee. Where are the transition words? Yeah, you see them here. First, then, and after that. Notice the punctuation. Punctuation means periods and commas. Where do you see the commas? They come directly after the transition words. Also, unlike subordinating conjunctions, transition words almost always come at the beginning of sentences. And of course, you see periods at the ends of these sentences. All right, let's review what we've just learned. If we use a subordinating conjunction in the middle of a sentence, we do not need a comma anywhere in the sentence. As you see here in this example, I take a shower after I eat breakfast. If the subordinating conjunction starts the sentence, we will need a comma after the clause. That means after the first subject and verb. And when we use transition words, they begin sentences and are directly followed by commas. Remember these rules when you are writing your narrative paragraph. Finally, let's look at some transitions that are sometimes confused in writing. Let's start with at last. At last in English means after a long time. For example, Janet lost her dog last week and she was devastated. That means sad, very sad. She looked everywhere for days, but she could not find him. However, when she woke up yesterday morning, she heard a bark at the door. At last, her dog had found his way home. At last means after a long time. But that's different from last or lastly. Last and lastly are what they sound like. They're to introduce the last point. Murray works at a cafe. Before the cafe opens, he has many duties to complete. First, he turns on the espresso machines. Next, he prepares the baked goods. Lastly, he makes sure the tables are sparkling clean. Here, lastly shows that we are talking about the last event in a series of events. This is different from at last. So here, you would not use at last. We also use the transition at first. When we say at first, it means in the beginning it was one way, but then it changed. For example, at first, Jeff was scared to swim without the help of an adult. Little by little, however, he became more comfortable. Now he swims alone with confidence and ease. Use at first when you want to show that something changes, that it's different than it was before. But if you just want to show that something happened first, use first. For example, making s'mores is very easy. First, you roast a marshmallow. Then, you get a graham cracker and some chocolate. Finally, you assemble your s'more and take a giant bite. Here, we would use first, not at first. By the way, you should try s'mores. They're delicious. Great! Now you know how to organize your ideas in narrative writing using subordinating conjunctions of time and transition words.